So today I thought I'd talk about this picture, which is from the 1994 Pride March in London. The banner says, "Remember Stonewall was a riot," and it's being carried, I don't know whether you can see that, by, I think it's about 10 or 11 Judy Garland lookalikes. I have to say they don't look very much like Judy Garland, but I think they were making the effort. And I also want to talk about this book, which is written by Ian Lucas. It's Impertinent Decorum. Ian Lucas, fellow sister of perpetual indulgence with me, was my flatmate as well during this time. And this book is published by Cassell's as part of their sexual politics list, which was in the 1990s. It was an incredible list of titles. There was lots of them in that list. This is Daring to Dissent, Lesbian Culture from Margin to Mainstream. Another book by Ian, which was Outrage. This is the oral history of outrage. One by Lisa Power. This is a really good one. This is No Bath But Plenty of Bubbles, the history of the GLF. Vamps, Virgins and Victims, Robin Gorner. This is Women Fighting AIDS. It's a really informative book, actually, brilliant book. And this is Valerie Mason-John's Talking Black. The Myth of the Modern Homosexual, Queer History and the Search for Cultural Unity. This is just a few of them, and there was some beautiful little pamphlets that they did as well. But I still think, for me, the most important thing about it is it's queer history written by the people who were making queer history at the time. And what Ian's doing in this book, he's looking at queer theatrical manoeuvres, gay theatrical manoeuvres. And he does talk about pride. And he talks about it in the following way. I think it's worth reading it. The pride parades give a license to be frivolous, controversial, outrageous. The danger of a parade, such as pride, is that it becomes depoliticized through its form, and that such political impetus as exists in it is controlled and diffused by the festival itself. Increasingly, the festival in the park has become a more and more important part of Pride, with many people turning out only for the party. This shift in focus brings its own set of problems, not least of which is funding the festival, providing stages, marquees, toilets and so on. It has been mooted that Pride should become a paying event. If this happens, it may mean that the Pride March itself disappears altogether, or becomes an increasingly marginalised event as revellers expect more for their money in the park. Well, times have changed. Well, I can tell you that it was a policy decision, I think, on the part of the Pride Trust that the festival would remain free. And of course, the march would be open to all. And what Ian is talking about goes to the very heart of this political versus commercial dynamic that's in all Pride events. Every Pride event in every developed country, I think would be the right way to put it, has gone through this argument. And I see it in a slightly different way, having run them, that it's not so much a commerce versus politics. It's more to do with a kind of assimilation versus liberation. It's actually totally central to the discourse around queer. So this is what I wrote in my diary on the 3rd of May 1994. Steve Cook, who was the editor of the Cassell's list, has given me a copy of Ian's book to look at and write something for as chair of Pride. Strangely enough, tonight, Outrage and I agreed the banners, one of which reads, "Stonewall was a riot." Now, a bit further on, Tuesday the 10th of May, a couple of days later, we had a committee meeting for the Pride event. Teddy, this is Teddy Witherington, who was the festival director, was very scathing about the march slogans, especially "Remember Stonewall" was a riot, which he wants to disassociate himself from. And then a bit later still, this is the 22nd of May, Sunday, Angela Mason, who was the chief executive of Stonewall, spoke to Teddy about the March Working Group and complained about outrage and the banner "Remember Stonewall" was a riot.